Kamusta ka na? Ayos ka lang ba? Happy ka ba? O sad pa rin ba? Kaya't halika na, sumama ka na selfie na, grupi na at iba pa. Bata matanda, biyuda at biyuda, may asawa man o kaya'y wala. Sama-sama tayo'y maglakbay, dito ka na, di ka na mag-iisa. Bebop na tayo, bebop na. Let us be hip and let us up, tara sa munting tahanan ni Kristo.
Hi! We're back in P-Pop. Magandang araw po sa inyo. Nakikita natin, meron tayong guest ngayon. Medyo bagong mukha, no? Siyempre, pag mga pogi, talagang mga taga-commission on the family yan. Hindi ba, bro, no? So, introduce na natin siya.
Ayan, sige. Ang ating guest ay kasama namin sa Vicariate sa San Martin de Porres. Commission on the Family Coordinator, si Brother Dave Ordonez.
You assigned me yung chapter 7, verse 280, no? And siguro I will read it. So it is chapter 7, Towards a Better Education of Children. It says, the Second Vatican Council spoke of the need for a positive and prudent sex education to be imparted to children and adolescents as they grow older, with due weight being given to advances in psychological, pedagogical, and didactic sciences. Medyo mano yung mga words, no? We may well ask ourselves if our educational institutions have taken up this challenge. It is not easy to approach the issue of sex education in an age when sexuality tends to be trivialized and impoverished. It can only be seen within the broader framework of an education for love, for mutual self-giving. And dyan pumapasok siguro yung Amoris Laetitia. In such a way, the language of sexuality would not be sadly impoverished, but illuminated and enriched. The sexual urge can be directed through a process of growth in self-knowledge and self-control, capable of nurturing valuable capacities for joy and for loving encounter. So, dito sinasabi yung sexual urges, no? Actually, all of our urges, no, or desires was given by God. No? Binigay sa atin to lahat. It is all God-given. And these desires are supposed to point us or lead us towards God. Kaya lang, problema, merong kalaban eh. Ang ginagawa ng kalaban is binabaliktad niya lahat itong desires natin. If you can imagine a rocket engine, no, that's pointed upwards, ang ano ng Panginoon is to lead our desires, itong rocket engines na to, should lead us towards God. But ang ginagawa ng demonyo is binabaliktad niya lahat to. He twists everything. Kung binabaliktad mong rocket engines, saan papunta? Sa baba, sa impyerno, no? Nagiging tayong makamundo. Siguro ang isi-share ko is 5 principles of Catholic education. I'm not an expert, hindi ako expert. I'm just a father who discovered these things about our faith, yung teachings, no? Especially yung theology of the body, no? By St. John Paul the Great. No? So, I'll share with you 5 principles na siguro pwede nyo ma-apply in educating your children. First, you have a personal obligation to teach your own children about sex. If you don't, somebody else will. And that's the problem. Kasi a lot of young people, their education of sex comes from either the internet or yung peers nila or yung mga kaibigan nila, kalaro nila. And that's very bad. I remember yung first time ako nakakita ng pornographic material, no? Dala ng isang kaibigan ko. Pinakita sa akin. And then, when I saw it, nandiri ako, na-repulse ako. No? Sabi sa akin ng kaibigan ko, that's how babies are made. Sabi ko, no, My parents do not do that. Sabi yung inisip ko agad. So, yung image ko agad ng sex is bastos or masama. We have to correct this kasi I'm sure my parents never talked to me about sex. I don't know about kayo, Kuya June and Ate Balong. Did your parents discuss sex during your time? Hindi rin, no? Marami sa generation natin got our education from the street corner o sa mga kaibigan natin. Pero ang problema ngayon, this survey sa Amerika, it says that 90% of 7 to 16-year-olds are already exposed to internet porn. Can you imagine that? No? 90% are already exposed. No? Siguro isang tip na mabibigay ko, yung ginawa namin ni Marilyn when the kids were growing up, no? Of course, meron ng internet noon. Ginawa namin, we made sure that all the gadgets, yung mga CPUs, laptops, were all in one place. So sa living room lahat yan. No? So we can monitor what they watch or what they see. No? We didn't allow any gadgets when they were growing up. They can watch by themselves in their rooms. No? All the gadgets are there in the living room. And at 11 o'clock, pinapatay ko na yung router. No? Because sometimes in the middle of the night, in the dead of night, kung ano-anong pumapasok sa isip. No? A human being, minsan nag-iiba siya sa, gabi na, walang gising, no? So we have to remove that moment of temptation, no? That opportunity for sin. Because you are obligated to teach your children about sex, kailangan armado kayo. You should educate yourselves. Kailangan matutunan nyo kung paano ba dapat, how do we educate our kids about sex, no? You have to educate yourself. Sabi nga, you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot teach what you don't know. So you have to arm yourselves, no? Mag-research kayo. When you teach a child how to speak, how to pronounce words, that is also the importance of teaching them about sex. Teach them where is the proper use or place of sex in a person's life. No? So there are a lot of materials. As yung internet is full of pornography, it is also full of resources. No? You can research there in Catholic websites. No, you can. For me, yung Theology of the Body by St. John Paul the Great was very helpful for me. No, it changed my twisted mind kasi na yung education ko ng sex was outside, not within a familial setting. So we have to change that. No? The education of sex should be within the family. Hindi natin pwedeng iano sa school, no? Kasi marami ngayon sa mga schools, no, may pinapasok na yung mga that are not Catholic teachings. No? As parents, we have to protect our children from those kinds of yung mga paniniwala na ganyan na hindi sa paniniwala natin. No? That's why a lot of Catholics medyo nagiging fallen away Catholics, or sometimes they leave the Catholic faith. Why? Because they don't know the why of their faith. Why do we believe this? Why is sex reserved for this? Why do we hear mass? No, as simple as that. Why do we have a pope? No, we have to be the main catechists of our children. No, we have to answer the why question. Because sabi nga ng psychologist, if a person knows the why, he can endure any how. So second principle, your children should be taught sex within the context of love, not as a thing apart. Ang sabi nga God made this world on purpose and out of love. And therefore, we as human beings were loved into existence. Minahal tayo, no? That's why we exist. So yun ang model natin. No? We teach our children that they were loved into existence, no? Because the act was a loving act by married couple and it produced children. No? But how do we do this? How do we model love? No? Kasi sabi nga virtue is not taught, it is caught. So ibig sabihin, nakikita ng mga bata, this is how love looks like. They can see you, no, as parents, as exemplars of that love. But you can also be a very bad example of that. Ganito po mag-asawa, ayoko nito. No? So in a way, the parents are already affecting yung vocation ng anak nila. No? Ayoko nga mag-asawa. No? Ganito pala mag-asawa. No? In a way, we are twisting their definition of love. No? So we have to be very careful. We have to practice. No? Ano ba yung ng Catholic family? You have to have your own traditions. your own rituals, no? By hearing mass together, no? Giving to charity, giving your time to the church. No? In a way, you are forming their hearts. Kasi sabi nga, yung sa Old Testament, God gave us the ethic. Ano ibig sabihin ng ethic? Yung laws. No? Don't do this, don't do that. 10 commandments. No? But in the New Testament, Christ gave us the ethos. So what is the ethos? Yung ethos is the internal attraction of the heart. What attracts your heart? Sabi nga ni Christ, if a man looks at a woman with lust in his heart, he has already committed adultery. So Christ doesn't need your physical obedience na parang, kunyari, good boy ka. No? Kailangan niya yung puso mo. He needs your heart. And we have to train at the hearts of our children to be like Christ. So we have these traditions or these rituals or these practices that somehow takes our children out of their own yung makasarili. No? Hindi sila makasarili, matuto sila mag-isip para sa ibang tao. What is the definition of love? So I think this is very helpful ni sinabi ni St. Thomas Aquinas, that love is willing the good of the other no matter the consequences. Sabi rin St. Maximilian Kolbe, the martyr of love, no? Without sacrifice, there can be no love. We have to clarify that with our children kasi usually ang love sa kanila is romantic love. The love in dreams, you know, Romeo and Juliet, whatever, no? Yung mga nakikita nila sa no. Sabi nga ni Fyodor Dostoevsky, love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing. Ano ba example natin nun? Love in action that is harsh and dreadful. We look at the cross. If we look at the cross, that is love in action. That is sacrificial love. And we have to somehow teach this to our children or model this to our children. The third principle is sex education must be intimately related to our belief in God and the natural law. What is the natural law? No? Well, God created humanity, both body and soul. So hindi lang tayo body. We're not animals. Kaya yung animals, they have no self-control. Tayo, we are human beings in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, we can reason. We have the ability to master our desires. We have the ability to be patient. They studied children na sabi nila sa mga bata, okay, I will put this candy in front of you and I will leave the room for a while. But if you don't eat it, when I come back, I will give you another one. So it is teaching children how to be patient. They follow the children. You know? May mga bata na nag-antay talaga. Pero nakita nila parang kating-kati. But they waited for the interviewer and then they got the second candy. Yung mga ibang bata naman, kinuha nila, kinain nila. And they followed these children for 25 years. Niwala ka, sinundan nila. They followed and they found out those who were patient were more successful. And those who were not, medyo hindi masyadong successful. Minsan naiinip mga bata, millennials, marami mga batang mainipin. Siguro you can be creative in stories. No? Like for example, yung Emperor Moth story. No? May isang farmer, nakita siya ng isang cocoon, yung Emperor Moth. And sabi niya, uy, gumagalaw-galaw, mag-hatch na yata. So, kinuha niya yun at inagay niya under a light sa kwarto niya and inabangan niya, inantay niya. So, gumagalaw-galaw, yung pupa, and nakita niya nagbubutas na yung Emperor Moth, parang lumalabas na. Sabi niya, parang nainip siya. Sabi niya, tulungan ko na kaya to. So tinulungan niya, binuksan niya. Lumabas yung moth. In a few minutes, namatay yung moth. Bakit? The Emperor Moth, it has to go through the struggle. Kailangan hayaan mo siya. Huwag mo siya tulungan because yung struggle niya is part of his development. Pag nag-i-struggle siya, may mga enzymes na umaano sa katawan niya to develop the wings para makalipad. So we have to teach them this na the beauty of waiting. Minsan naiinip mga bata, millennials, marami mga batang mainipin. Siguro you can be creative. Amoris Laetitia is very important because it talks about the family and familial love. I think Pope Francis or si Pope John Paul II nagsabi na God is not a solitude. He is a family. God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And God is love. God is love. Through the Trinity, there is a lover, there is a beloved, and there is the love that exists between the lover and the beloved. And that's the Holy Spirit. So as God is a family, Christ also came into his human family. No? Saint Joseph, Mama Mary, and Jesus. Sabi ni Pope Francis, the love we share in our families, at work, in the church, and in the world will save us, for it will endure forever. So the family saves. Kaya ang ano nga ng yung isang theologian, I forgot his name, no? Sabi niya, if every family lived out its sacramental promises for one generation, sabihin practice yung practice love as Christ ordered us how to love, no? Love like Him, no? It will produce a thoroughly Christian world. So it's really the family. It's up to us, no? The family saves, no? Of course, Jesus. The family is Christ's arms and legs, no? So we are His arms and legs. So we are part of that salvific mission. Pope John Paul the Great, he also stressed the importance of family, because he said in his homilies in Australia in 1986, he said, as the family goes, so goes the nation, and so goes the whole world in which we live. Kaya ang ano rin nga is the future of humanity goes by way of the family. So with that, thank you very much.
So thank you very much for this wonderful sharing, Amoris Laetitia 280. So siguro marami mabubuksan ng kaisipan nila so that they will now try to do it in their family, no? Itong paano turuan sila on sexuality, and marami ka na naibigay na input. Talagang napakahirap din. Sa amin, hindi rin namin magawa agad yan unless makarinig kami ng pareho nung iyong sharing. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, babay na tayo sa ating mga viewers. Okay?
Paalam na tayo sa kanila. Bye!
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Pwede na ba?
Pwede na!
Iba yung konteksto yung pagkakatanong dyan nung pwede na ba? Kasi yung mga bata raw, hindi mo alam kailan mo ba sila dapat turuan about sex education, yung sexuality nila.
Yes.
Yun. So, at early age, pwede na pala, no? Iba-iba lang ang paraan. So, you cannot teach kung halimbawa yun talagang gusto mo ituro at an early age.
So parang na sinasabi mo na yung pwede na ba, pwede ko na bang ituro to sa anak ko? Yeah. Iba isip ko na mas maisip.
Ayan yung mga tanong ng mga nag-aasawa na hindi pa nila naunawaan yung tungkol sa sexuality.
Oo. Pwede rin, kahit hindi rin yan sa bata. No? Pwede rin yan sa mga mag-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yan. Okay. Kaya lang yung approach natin ngayon sa mga bata na doon. Kasi po, mga maliliit pa lang dapat po, alam na yan ng mga bata.
Alam mo, tinanong tayo ni Brother Dave. Sabi niya, kayo ba naituro niyo ba yung sexuality sa mga anak niyo? Ano sagot natin?
Hindi.
Kahit yung mga magulang natin, hindi rin.
Actually, what I was saying, yung action speaks louder. No? Kasi unang-una, ang pinaka naging feel ko lang po, hindi naman ako yung na defensive dahil hindi ko naturo. Yun yung sinasabing, hindi ka aware, pero tama yung nagawa mo. Like, number 1, hindi kami nanonood ng mga malaswang ng mga palabas, no? Kahit, ewan ko siguro yung parents ko, ganun din yung upbringing. Pag nakakanood ako, it's either nililipat ko or fino-forward ko kung tape. Tapos ang ginagawa natin sa anak natin, pag may mga biglang lumabas na ganun, tinatakpan ko yung mata. Kahit malaki na sila ngayon, tinatakpan ko pa rin na ganun. So, tapos siguro yun yung number 1 na wala tayong mga magazines na mga porno, mga ganyan. So the rest, no, yung mga on their own, hindi na natin alam, no, kung tulad ng kwento ni Brother Dave, no. So hindi na natin, pinasa Diyos na lang namin dahil hindi naman namin sila tinututukan. Although, ang advantage lang sa atin, late na sila nagkaroon ng mga cellphone. Siguro high school na sila na nagka-cellphone sila.
Oo, sabi niya,
Oo.
kung hindi niyo tuturuan anak niyo, iba ang magtuturo sa kanila.
Oo.
Ayun. So, halimbawa, sa akin, kahit dahil hindi naman ako tinuruan tungkol sa sex ng magulang ko. Pero tinuro nila sa akin yung takot sa Diyos.
Yeah, tama.
Ngayon, yung takot sa mga sakit na nakukuha doon sa mga sex na sa labas. Yun, yung takot na yun, yun naman ang naging daan sa akin para iwasan ko yan. Ngayon, tama pala yun, ano? Kasi ngayon na sinasabi ni Brother Dave, paano tinuturo yan sa ano? Actually, tinuturo yan in the context of a marriage. Yung mga pagmamahalan na mag-asawa. Doon kasi yan eh. Because yung sexuality na yan is made for the purpose of procreation. Di ba? O, yung purpose na yon is a very sacred one. Design ni God yun. Sabi nga ni Dave kanina kasi noon ang tingin ko rin parang bastos. O, ganun nga. Madalas ganun ang tingin ng mga tao tungkol dyan. Kung ituturo pala yan, number one, tingnan natin in the context of marriage. So, ibig sabihin, sex in itself is sacred. Kaya nga, merong katuruan dyan, yung si Pope John Paul II. Di ba? Yung theology of the body.
Yes.
O dyan mo makikita na ang iyong katawan is a reflection of God. Yung body mo is a reflection of God. Kaya, bibigyan natin ng tamang pag-respect at reverence yung ating katawan. O, dyan din tinuturo na yung sex na yan should be done pagka kayo ay nakasal na. Dapat maghintay ka, no?
Yes.
At the proper time.
Yes.
So,
Kaya nga gusto ko yun yung example niya doon sa yung nasa pupa, nasa cocoon, yung butterfly. Hindi ba? Nagmadali yung farmer. So, dahil sa kainipan niya, gusto na niya makita yung butterfly na lumabas, akala niya, he was helping the butterfly. Pero actually, lalong nanghina yung butterfly kasi yung masikip na paglabas, lumalakas yung butterfly doon. So, gano'n din po yung situation natin. Kung hindi tayo patient, no? Hindi nagiging maganda yung resulta. Kahit din sa pagturo sa ating mga anak. We have to be patient.
Ayan. Kaya sabi, pwede na ba? So at the young age, pwede na. Kahit bata pa. Kasi ang una, halimbawa bata pa yan, pwede mo na agad ituro yung love. Di ba? Yung pagmamahalan. Pag-iwas sa mga maling pananaw tungkol sa sex ng mga bata. So, dapat makita nila in the context of yung design ni God dyan sa ano na yan. So, ang ano pala dyan, ang sinasabi ni Brother Dave, it is a continuing process of teaching our children. So, yung teaching na yun, actually, ang tinuturo natin is how God look at our sexuality.
Yes.
Di ba? So, sa mga bata, pwede na ituro yon. Pagkatapos, as they go older, unti-unti, ini-introduce mo naman yung tungkol sa yung sinasabi that they are a co-creator of God. No? So, yan yung, kaya nga, pagka yung nag-asawa na, they are ibig sabihin, yung sexuality nila, nagagamit nila for the purpose of God, no, in building up a family.
Yes.
Yun.
Minsan pa nga, di ba may mga baby na tayo, tapos buntis ka, baby pa yung kasunod, pinapahipo mo all this, this is your sister or your brother, di ba? So alam niya na nandun dito sa loob ng tummy. Hindi siya yung parang, sabi na, nahulog sa langit, o kaya yung daladala ng stork, di ba? So,
pinaliwanag naman ni Brother Dave yan, kung paano unti-unti mong ini-introduce yan. Ngayon, susunod naman, pwede mo naman gamitin yung may mga organization yan eh. Halimbawa sa mga bata, sa school pa lang meron na. yung tinatawag natin, meron ako naririnig na 100% pure. May mga programa na ganun.
Yes.
Or pure love.
Yes.
Or love can wait.
Yes.
Ayan, yan, may mga organization na ganyan. Ma-encourage ko sana yung mga anak nyo na sabi mo, sama ka dyan.
Yes.
Di ba? Bigyan mo pa ng ano yun, ng lagay para para sumali ron.
Yeah, sabi mo, sige.
Pag sumali ka riyan, meron kang
Meron kang
baon.
chicken sa Popeyes, commercial
Ayun. So, ayun, nakakatulong yun. Kasi minsan, talaga namang mahirap din ipaliwanag, mas naririnig nila dun sa kaedad nila, no? Na meron nagtuturo sa kanila, and then they practice it among them. Nagkakaroon sila ng parang support group para magawa nila yon.
Ang pinakamagandang ituro, yung love, no? Yung love can wait, no?
Yeah.
It's not actually yung love. Love makes you wait. No?
Ayan, tama.
Diba?
Galing
Hindi
Hindi naman yung love can wait.
Yes, it makes you wait.
For the proper time.
Okay.
Maganda talaga yung makakatulong sa atin is allow our children na mag-join doon sa mga ganun mga club. Club na pinapakita sa kanila how is it to give reverence doon sa kanilang katawan, sa kanilang sexuality.
Ang kagandahan kasi nun, pare-parehong age group nandun. So, hindi sila parang maiilang. So, mga questions nila halos pare-pareho. Kaya so, kung ipapasok nyo sa yung mga matatanda na, no, or kaya tayo minsan, although sabi nga talagang tayo sa atin talagang manggagaling, kaya lang minsan, medyo hirap tayong magsabi, meron namang paraan. It's never too late. No? Never too late.
And then, sa atin naman, sa family natin, dapat nakikita nila yon, no? How we express our love, yung mga externalities na yon, at nakikita nila masaya tayo sa ating family. And yung faith natin, talagang kailangan makita nila that we are really yung faithful dun sa ating pananampalataya. At dahil ganon, masaya yung ating family, di ba? Ayun, yun siguro ang parang nakuha ko rin sa paragraph 280, no? Mahirap, pero there is always a way. Sabi nga, kung tutulungan tayo ng Panginoon, magagawa natin ang paraan yan.
Yes. Okay, so tapos na naman ang isang paragraph ni Pope Francis. Marami pa po yan. Kaya stay tuned po kayong lagi. At kung meron kayong magandang share sa buhay ninyo, i-text nyo lang kami. Sabihin nyo, pwede po ba kaya kaming mag-share dyan? Malay mo, di ba? Okay. So, i-announce po namin. Meron po kasing may winner po tayo dun sa mga nagpadala ng on time, no? Kasi merong cut-off yung sumali sa contest for Mother's Day. Pero yung from that time up to end of the month, wala na hong contest yon, pero at least maipapakita po sa video dito sa P-Pop Live. Ang deadline po dun sa pictures na may one-liner, no, at saka name ng mommy nyo, is May 20. After May 20 po, hindi ko na po mapopost. No? Okay. So, we'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye!